Congratulations, Dan.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so you and I both had the privilege of spending the day here and learning, seeing everything that the place has to offer. And I, for one, was amazed by all of it. I'm still processing. Um, and I know you were in the archive for a while,
I was in the archive the whole day,
nerding out.
nerding out.
Big
No, I
time.
loved it. I loved it. Yeah.
So of course my first question was sort of what you've already talked about, but I want to know specifically, what did you learn today that surprised you the most about George Washington Carver and Rachel Carson? What did you take?
Rachel Carson, not so much. In the archive, it was all Carver all day. Uh, I wrote a book many years ago that featured Rachel Carson, so I have not exhausted her incredible life, but I know very little about Carver's life. So I was digging in, and what I take away from the hours of looking at this amazing museum of this amazing man was the gentleness of his letters to Ford, mostly, which is a big part of the archive, but. He really loved Ford, and these are two people who, at least on the face of it, you would say they couldn't possibly have connected. But they both had such an extraordinary respect for each other and for their pursuits. They had a worldview that they absolutely were simpatico with. And you can feel a sense of deep love and actually got deeper for some reason, I was reading these letters chronologically, I think by chance, and very close to Carver's death. He basically said, "I love you," and it was, you felt this sense of awe that I hadn't understood. The second thing that I didn't understand well enough was that Carver was a chef. He was a foodie. Through and through. I mean, the man was obsessed with cooking for himself. He didn't have a family. He didn't have a partner. And his letters to Ford especially, I don't know that Ford was such a foodie. Is that, I don't know anything about Ford's life. He was not. But it was, Carver was writing the details of his dinner right up until right before he died. And he would say in the letter, I'm too tired. I can't walk. And I have to go now. And then sincerely yours, George. And then P.S. I'm about to saute these wild greens that I came upon, and I'm going to mix it with. I went into great detail about his love of cooking, and I found it so moving.
I felt that way when I went to the J.D. Salinger exhibit at the New York Public Library. I read a bunch of his letters, and then he talked about all the weird things that he had cooked. And
I didn't know that.
Oh my!
He was a foodie. Who
amazing.
knew?
He was like a weird health nut foodie.
Oh wow!
Like
Before it was cool to be a health nut foodie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Super
Today
weird.
it's like everybody's a health nut foodie. Back then you were not.
No.
Right.
It was very busy. It would be like one child's fist size broccoli floret.
Wow,
and that was
that's
the kind
intense.
of stuff that was
Intense.
you would love it.
Yeah, I love that.
It was crazy.
Did he say anything about sunflower?
Okay, so when you said that, I was literally 2 days ago with a friend, and she was like, "We need to find someone who can start making sunflower steaks."
Come to Blue Hill.
There you go.
www.bluehill.com and you will get your sunflower steak.
Well,
love
this
it.
was literally 2 days ago. Can we talk about the third plate for a second? So your book came out in 2014, which was now almost or more than 10 years ago.
Oy.
And you're very good at dissecting. I'm sorry. Listen, it feels like yesterday for me too. You're really good at dissecting things that are sort of difficult for someone like me or any normal person who doesn't understand agriculture. And in the third plate, you talk about the three plates. The first one being 7-ounce corn-fed steak with a side of vegetables.
Nice, Kate.
The second, which is how most Americans have eaten for the last half century.
Right.
The second plate is the same steak but grass-fed with a side of vegetables. And then the third plate would ideally be a sunflower steak
Yes, nice.
with
That would be
meat
a
as a
dream.
condiment.
Yes, yes, that's the dream.
Okay. So now that the book, as we've established, is more than a decade old,
I
how
love
much
you
closer?
said that because last night I served sunflower steak with a side of sirloin.
Really?
Yeah, swear to God.
We're just
I
the
really did it.
sunflower steak. Is
I
just-
actually did it.
Yeah.
So good, great. Okay, I'm doing. It feels very rewarding that you brought that up unprompted.
It was kismet. So now, 2025. How much closer are we to the third plate?
I think we're so far, it's crazy. I mean, I think the third plate and the whole articulation of farm to table is failing. That's what I think. I mean, actually, the third plate, to credit a little bit, I did set out to write a book about farm to table, about this deep connection between a farmer and you, and a recipe for that. And as I did the research, I started to realize this is so elitist, it's crazy. It's like nobody can afford this. And so I had to it took me 12 years to write the book because I rewrote it. And what came out of it was this idea that we just need to reconceptualize what's for dinner, and the protein-centric plate of food with the smattering of vegetables, whether it's grain-fed beef or it's grass-fed beef, which is probably better, it's still not going to service a lot of people in a way that's going to make this movement spread. And here we are 10 years after the book. And that part of it was right. Like we are not spreading this. With the farm to table, direct connection with the farmer represents about 5% of American food dollars. 95% of it is not great. And it's getting worse, I think. Mm-hmm. So I think we need to reconceptualize what's for dinner and how we do it more aggressively, because our environment is suffering and our health is suffering at the same time. So I hate to be so dystopian. It's such a beautiful backdrop, but yeah, I'm in New York. I'm very cynical.
I'm right there with you.
Okay, good.
Transparency.
Two of us, good. Okay.
Sorry, everybody. Oh, well, okay. You brought up the term farm to table, which has become so diluted.
Yes,
meaningless.
corrupted.
I don't think there's a term I can't stand more. Maybe foodie, but
I agree with you. And what's my label? I'm farm to table guy. I got a table in the middle of a farm, so I'm really.
You're literally farm. You are literally.
I got skin in the game. Yeah.
But you're an insider. Is there some other term we can be using that actually means something?
Well, I don't like regenerative. I really hate that term because it's not defined, and there's too many people calling themselves regenerative. Pepsi calls themselves regenerative.
Oh, geez.
Makes me sick. I mean, that's what the Pepsis of the world were doing. I hope there's no one who's at Pepsi here. I hope that's what the Pepsis of the world were doing before organic became law and you actually defined it. So there actually are rules and regulations that define what organic is. Regenerative is the Wild West. Everybody's regenerative. And that's not right. And that's cheapening the brand of organic, and it's also confusing everybody.
Yeah, I mean, the terms are just outrageous.
Right.
If people like you and I who actually work in food and try and understand don't understand
how it is. I agree with you. We need a Rachel Carson. That's what I was saying. We need Rachel Carson. And at the same time, we really need more Carvers of the world who are creating solutions that are about democratization, because this elitism thing is just, it's not going to move the needle.
Okay, so that was actually my favorite part of the conversation that you had with Spence a couple of years ago, was you talked about the democratization of seeds, because obviously for those of you who don't know it, Dan has a seed company called Row 7. And you talked about why independent seed companies are so important. And there's many reasons. They can prioritize both yield and biodiversity for farmers, taste for consumers, health for ecosystems.
Nice. You did your homework.
I did, because I loved that part. And I really didn't know that we can't just go back to growing heirlooms like our ancestors grew, because they would just cater to the 1%.
Can I tell you? I was right there with you this is a very late inning. I was an evangelist for old stuff. what our great grandparents were going, not until not that long ago. So I am with you. This is a late inning revelation. It happened because of a breeder came into my kitchen. It was like less than 12 years ago. He was eating dinner. I invited him back at the end of the night, and it was very late. And I said to him, I just off the cuff, because I was a little awkward. I'm actually always awkward, but I was very awkward in my kitchen. I don't know what to say.
Fine.
And I said, "What do you say to a breeder of squash?" I was like, "I don't." He was quite a up and coming squash breeder. So I said to him, "If you're a squash breeder, why don't you breed a butternut squash that actually tastes good?" Like, why are we told to add brown sugar and maple syrup and butter to every single recipe for butternut squash, to serve it to our family and our friends? This is like, why? I was kind of kidding. He got very serious. And of course, I mean, he's a squash breeder. And he said, the reason I've never bred a butternut squash taste good is because nobody's ever asked me to breed or select for flavor. And that was the moment. I feel like the curtain came down, and it was like before and after moment. Because I was like, who are you talking to?
Yeah.
In that sense, I was so elitist. I was like, you don't talk to chefs? No, I don't. I talk to the industry. And the industry wants size, shape, color, yield, shelf life, thank you, transportation. They want everything. And then, flavor. But flavor's down here. And as I have learned now in the 10 years, being educated, if you're selecting for all the things I just mentioned, you're selecting against flavor. And by the way, the criminality of all of this, selecting against flavor, I think is a crime, but maybe not everyone feels that way. But I'll tell you what's a real crime is you're selecting against nutrition, because flavor and nutrition are the same thing. Flavonoids is flavor, but it's also all of our nutrient density. We have been selecting against healthfulness for 75 years. That's in American agriculture. And unfortunately, we're exporting that idea to the rest of the world. And that is why today, 65% of our food supply, of our seed supply, is in the hands of 4 companies. 4. That should make everyone I'll tell you why it should make everyone gasp. Because those 4 companies are chemical companies. They're not seed companies. Chemical companies bought the seed companies. There are no seed companies of mid-size scale. They're either very small and they supply, farmers markets are very important, or they are of the Monsanto of the world, which Monsanto was bought by Bayer, as we know. It's done. So we live in a world where our food system, our food for ourselves, for our children, are in the hands of chemical companies. What is the incentive of a chemical company to develop a variety that is nutritious and delicious? Their incentive is to sell the chemical. They don't make money on the seed. I know, because I own a seed company. You don't make money on the seed. You make money on the intervention. So you create a variety that requires the chemical intervention. That's where you make your money. It is a rigged game, a totally rigged game. And I feel like my job as a chef is to get that word out there, because no one in this room and the rest of the country, I would imagine, would be able to stand for that if they understood it. And so we have to understand it. We have to present it in a way that, I think, instead of what I'm doing, which is pounding my fist against the wall of corporate commercialization of agriculture, and present another option, which is deliciousness. Because deliciousness and nutrient density and actually farmer equity, they all kind of work in they all do work in the same sphere. And that's why I started the seed company.
Well, and speaking, easier. Speaking of children, how are we supposed to get them to eat vegetables if they don't taste good?
But if they taste good, they run to them.
Of course.
Yeah, right. I mean, it's so obvious. And yet, right. We're told, not just children, we're all told to eat more vegetables. I don't understand how we're supposed to eat more vegetables when the thought of it is a chore.
Well, butternut squash, I mean.
Yeah, right.
It's terrible.
Right. Terrible. Terrible.
Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot, Dan.
Please.
You can't really think about the answer.
Can I just say before I say because I'm too negative. The positive is the idea that we can't have delicious butternut squash, nutritious butternut squash for an affordable price is cuckoo brains.
No, I agree. I've had your squash. It's amazing.
Okay, it is amazing. And I say that as haughtily as I'm saying it, because I didn't do anything. The breeder did it. And the breeder will say, I didn't really do anything. I was just told that flavor is the priority. And when flavor is the priority, nutrition is the priority. The squash that we created together has 4 times the beta carotene of butternut squash, 4 times. That's what we've had the money to test so far. It's very expensive to test these things. 4 times the beta carotene. Butternut squash is a superfood. So what is our squash, by the way? I have no idea. I don't really care. What the flavor is unbelievable. My point is the idea that you have to trade, that there's a duality. There's like you can feed a lot of people, which is obviously important, or you can feed people deliciously with a lot of nutrition, but you have to make a choice, is a false choice. And we have been fed that crap for 75 years. That is American agriculture. And it's just root and branch. It's wrong. And the reason I'm saying it so passionately is because it's so clear that it's wrong. I have a little seed company, a tiny one, and our yields are almost commensurate with butternut squash. And butternut squash has had investment for 70 years to create what we all eat as tasteless and nutritionless. So I know this can be turned around. We just need to wake up to the idea that there is a better future in agriculture and in food. And I think it starts with seed.
And soya. If you're prioritizing flavor, I'm thinking about the farmer that you were talking to. If you're prioritizing flavor, what are you then putting on the back burner that was on the front burner before?
I've never been asked that. Gives me, look at this, I have the hair standing up on my I've never been
excited. I asked you a question you never been asked before.
And it's so smart because it's like what you're saying is a larger point, which is we need to change the culture of expectation. You can't go into the supermarket and look at the butternut squash and say, it only is right to me if they all look the same, with the same color, the exact same size. Because that's, when we go to the supermarket, that's what we see with across the whole class of everything is the same size, the same shape, same color. We have to look at variation because there's gonna be variation if you are not selecting for exactitude. And that's a big key point. And God, that is for a chef, it's what you want. You want the variation, you know that. But for a home cook, it's kind of scary. And I don't appreciate that enough. And that is a big thing. We need variability. We need to go into the marketplace and see differentiation and celebrate it, get excited by it. That's a cultural shift. Mm-hmm. And so that would be the number one thing, because when you select for hierarchy of that nutrition and flavor, you're gonna get differences in size, shape, color, for sure.
People get so excited when they get a carrot that looks like a butt or something. I mean, we do like, it's so much fun to get a weird shaped vegetable.
That's true. There's a small market for weird shaped vegetables, unfortunately. There's you and me and a couple people in this room, it sounds like, but that's about it.
It's definitely you and me, but okay.
You know what it is? It's that you're right about the oddity. I'm not making fun of it. It's the shippers and the packers that control the food system as much as the consumer, because you get an off size. That guy, Michael Mazurek, who came into my restaurant and answered me, I had the off-cuff question, why don't you create a butternut squash taste good? I'm going to say something to you now. It sounds haughty. I don't mean it that way. But we created this thing called the honey nut squash, which is now grown, it was a trial number, 898. And I was so excited about it, like kind of thing, you keep up at night, you get up at night and you can't go back to sleep that excited. And I was like, we're going to get this into Walmart. The yield is great. It's this cute little squash. It's smaller because butternut squash is 85% water. So like we bred out the water. So you have to all this nutrition and flavor in every bite. It's going to just be but I was thinking like Nobel Prize and shit. And so I go to you go to the guy, the Walmart, no way. I remember, I'll never forget that conversation. The guy was like, no way. And he was holding it. He's like, how would this sell next to a butternut squash? You're going to hand the butternut squash 30% bigger. Everyone's going to say, I can get more for my money. And then the distributor said, oh no, we don't have a SKU for this. Meaning we don't have a shipping container that fits this size squash. It's crazy, right? Well, why don't you create a new SKU? I didn't say that. So anyway, I said, okay, I'm sending this out to all the chefs around the country. I really sent it. And we did social media. That was 2000 and when it was released, 2014, 15. I'm just going to fast forward in the interest of time. Today, which is this fall, you can find the honey nut squash in Costco, Walmart, Whole Foods, Trader Joe's, and thousands of farmers markets around the country. But, and I thank you. I accept the applause on behalf of the breeder, but the breeder would say, I just was told what you wanted. That's all. That's it. He did it in 2 years. So that everyone is saying no because the market can't deal with a squash that's a little bit smaller is asinine. Really, truly asinine. And so now this squash is, and we haven't had 60 years and tens of million dollars investment on our genetics. This was done on the weekends and on a backyard, really, literally. So I feel so bullish on, and that's why I don't want to end on a negative note. I feel so bullish on the future because, the one thing about Americans, we talk about an ugly food culture. The one thing that is terrific about our country and our food culture is we change habits with dizzying speed. Sushi, like where did that come from? Greek yogurt, kombucha, and the list goes on. And in Japan, do you think that happens in Japan? In France, in Italy? No, it's static, it stays. And in America, we have no food culture. And one of the great benefits of that is the opportunity to do what Carver did, make it popularized. And we're nimble and we move very fast for deliciousness. We're willing to spend more for deliciousness. So I feel in that sense, less the cynic and more buoyed by the opportunity.
You did it. You were positive.
My wife wouldn't recognize me right now.
You're going to have to tell her. Okay, I have one last question, and I don't know which one I want it to be, but
just not boxers or briefs.
Oh, jeez. Okay, deal. At this point, without thinking about it too much, would you consider yourself a chef or an activist? You can only pick one.
What's the difference?
Thank you. That was the right answer.
I don't know the difference.
Okay, that was a quick answer. So now I'm going to ask you the other thing.
Go ahead. Go.
You have to be honest.
Yes.
If you could have a plate of anything in front of you, anything at all, what would it be?
Oh, sunflower. Come on.
Come on.
Right now, this is making me hungry. And what I said when I come back in a few years, I want everyone to be salivating when they look at the menu and they're like, oh, thank God, we're not having sirloin. Thank God we're not having Wagyu. We're having a steak of sunflower with marrow butter on the side. Oh yeah, there's a little piece of steak in the middle of the table for everyone to share. Yes, thank God. That's the dream. Okay, let's eat, right? Let's eat. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.